everyone. We are talking about elections. Election campaigns are going. We know their main competition, especially in Victoria, is whether we want Labour back or we want change this time and we want Liberal back. So we have a Barry candidate from Liberal Party, and we all know Brad Battin. We all had a, like few chances in the back as well, where we asked direct questions to Brad about Liberal Party policies, and once again we have Brad with us. So welcome back, Brad. We have once again we got the opportunity to have a chat with you. So thank you for giving us the time first of all, and once again elections are just around. We are talking about campaign. So let's start. When we are comparing between Labour and Liberal parties, we have Labour Party at the moment. We have seen their policies. We know what they are planning to do. Why we want Liberal now?
I think probably the easiest thing is to say we need change. We've seen too long where we've had a government who have failed to actually understand what's going on in the community. And I think probably more than ever we've seen a government that gets interferes in your life. They really want to take over everything. We've had lockdowns, we've had parks closed, we've had all the issues through COVID. The biggest thing I felt through that impact was particularly people with faith, where a government decided that you couldn't be involved effectively in your church during that period of time, or your temple or your mosque. Now, for me, we've got a multicultural community now. We've got people from all over the world that proudly call Victoria home. Therefore, we have to change and adjust a little bit to make sure that we can deliver not just the projects and the roads, etc., but make sure we can actually create an environment where you can stay involved with your local community. So if you're voting this election, the biggest thing for us that is around freedom. We believe in the freedom of religion. We believe in your freedom to grow. We believe in the freedom of the individual. We want to see people who want to achieve things and move forward, how important that is. And to my biggest thing, if I'm going to say there's a difference, it's our belief in freedom and small government versus Labor, which is interfering in your life and big government.
That is a very big statement. When we are talking about freedom, we are talking about many other things. Now, while talking about freedom, I think the main issue at the moment is health as well. Because during COVID, we have seen the health crisis, which I think we have never seen in the past. So for the first time, we felt that Australia, whether like there was a question came whether Australia is a developed country or it's underdeveloped. So when we are talking about health, what Liberal Party is doing?
Yeah, we're very committed to building new hospitals. So we've already committed to a new children's hospital over in Werribee, a new hospital in Melton, and we're also going to redevelop some other hospitals across the state. The important part about that is not just about the infrastructure, it's actually also ensuring we've got the right staff in those hospitals, that we've got the right services available in the right areas. One of the things I'm actually very focused on as well, and I know that you speak to a lot of multicultural communities
Yes.
through your TV, one of the things I've been very focused on, and I think it actually may have been you sent me at one stage, there was copies of the paper from around Australia where young Indian children had died in our
Yes.
emergencies.
Yes.
And I've actually focused with Georgie Crozier. When we bring in new hospitals, and particularly in these growth areas, we want to make sure that they're ready to ensure that when people come in, they understand how the system works. We can't afford to have people coming in not understanding, and as you said, going home at the time, which ends up losing a loved one. What are we going to do? We're going to build those hospitals. We're going to make sure they're built for the communities they're in. We know the world has changed. We know Victoria's changed. So we'll make sure those hospitals match those communities.
Brad, this is very sensitive area. मैं थोड़ा जा अपनी लैंग्वेज ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ कहना ਚਾਹਾਂਗੀ कि I particularly had a chat with those parents जिन्हों ने अपने बच्चे खोए ने इस emergency system ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ, because we had to wait for longer hours. And इस तरह ਦੇ भी parents ने ਜਿਹੜੇ कि like I met a few parents where the kid was actually admitted to the hospital. First of all, they force parents to just wait in the emergency area, and then ਜਦੋਂ parents ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਗਏ ਨੇ, they were not given the services they should have given to the kids. And I've seen this. Okay, when we are talking about hospitals now, when we are talking about services now, at the moment there are like crises everywhere. Even in New South Wales, we have seen nurses gone on strike. Even in Victoria, we have seen the doctors are actually under stress. They don't want to do their job. So when we are talking about these facilities, what policies you have for staff members, especially doctors, nurses? What policies you think? How can we give them relief?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is how do we get more nurses and more doctors through the system? And we've got a program which will encourage more people to go in through university to get their nursing degree. And I know, and I'll be fair on it, Labor's got one as well. The difference between Liberal and Labor is theirs, once you do it, you have to go in the public sector. Ours is no, you can go in the private sector as well, and we'll recruit more. The other thing is, how do we bring people back from overseas? We understand it's a federal issue, but the state will we've got to stand up and start saying to our federal colleagues, we need people to start coming back in who are skilled and trained, because it's too difficult to continue the way we're going. We've got a crisis through the whole country. So it's not one state calling for this. We need to start to bring that immigration back up to the levels or more than it was at the moment, just to get those skilled experts in. We know they're there. We know they want to move here. We've got the best place in the world to live. Why wouldn't we start encouraging them to come over?
The other thing which we have noticed is that there is a shortage of labor. Obviously, we always talk about small businesses, that during COVID, small businesses got impacted. But somewhere we have noticed that bigger businesses are impacted now as well, because there is a shortage of labor. The other thing is what we have noticed, and which came from my community as well, that even though people are getting cuts on their pays, because they are, like, for example, maybe the businesses are not earning that money which they used to earn, and at the moment they can't pay same to the staff. How you think, and even at the moment the cost is rising as well, how you think that Labour Party, because Australia is already in the crisis now, can control these things?
In the state, the biggest thing we can do is control our debt. So we'll put a debt cap on, so we can't borrow more than we can pay. And I think that's a real big issue. Victoria's debt at the moment is 167.5 billion. That's as much as New South Wales, Queensland and Tasmania combined in one state. So we have to pay that back. Just to put it into perspective, that's $6 billion every year in interest. Now, the government only takes $90 billion in income a year. So it's nearly 10% of our income is going straight away out the door onto interest of loans. If we want to fix the job crisis, we need to create investment, make sure we become a place where people want to invest. It's not all about government. There's a big difference again. Daniel Andrews is all about how does government employ more people. My view is, how do we make it a better place for people who want to start and run a business, big or small? How do we make sure that our tax system invites them here? And how do we encourage that investment? You can't rely on governments to continuously, we haven't got a round circle of that money going in and out. We need to make sure that we've got the private enterprise working as well to increase our economy. That's more jobs. And again, how many places around here? We live out in the best part of the world. We know Gagan. We've got the Casey and Cardinia area. How many businesses out here have been started by Indian, Sri Lankan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, refugees, people from all over the world who have done it really tough? They're here starting their own business. Why? Because it's the best place to do a business. Let's make it more inviting and more practical for them to do it.
This is a big debt, and you're talking about investment. Do you think that Liberal Party will implement more taxes just to pay this debt?
100% no. We've already said that we'll have no new taxes here in the state. We want to make sure that anything going forward, we're putting more money back into people's pockets, not trying to take more out of it. Daniel Andrews committed to no new taxes in 2014, and we've had 43 new or increased taxes. That's just not good enough. You can't lie to the community like that and expect to get away with it. We've already said we'll remove one tax, which is we call the tradies tax. People who come and build your house or do work inside your house, they have to pay a huge tax on just registering. The government's put that up nearly 1,000% in some stage. We'll cut that. That means cost of living expenses will come down as well.
Oh, which is like a great news. And at the moment, we were talking previously, like you are announcing few funds as well. At the moment, like there's a funding going around for communities. How many communities do you think you have covered? And when I'm talking about, maybe I do not want to know in the numbers, but I'm talking about the smaller communities here, because we have noticed most of the time the smaller communities, they get neglected by the government. So what policies you have for them?
We're going to make sure we've got funding going around to all the smaller communities. I know we've spoken about the Temple, which is 150,000. We're also going to put $12.5 million into a multicultural hub in Pakenham. Yeah. That's actually an advantage for the entire community, because we've seen we need to have places where people can connect. We'll have a lot of business funds and going around as well. We're going to put a freeze on business taxes, etc., through council. So that's a big change in what we're doing. But I think it's around finding smaller sports grants, community grants, engagement in grants. Our government will be about how do we keep people active? How do we give them the opportunity to stay active rather than you don't want to just get to the stage you just pay everything for them. We want to make sure that they take control of their finances, they take control of their future.
It looks like you have already done your homework. You are on top of everything. You know what the problems are, and you have the solutions for that. But at the end, it depends on the community as well how they see that Labour Party is bringing the policies, or Liberal Party, what policies Liberal Party is bringing over. And at the last, I just want to say that when we are talking about campaigns, you are also doing campaign, and you are in this area for like so long now. You're talking to people. What's the biggest issue they think? It's here, especially in Victoria and especially in Berwick area when we are talking about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It depends where you are in my electorate. So if you're in Clyde North, I could talk about anything, but if I'm not talking about their phone reception, they just don't care. Phone reception is the number one issue down in Clyde North. We've got a plan to fix that in the planning, and we've also got a funding announcement around that coming forward as well.
Wow.
Roads are really important, so we're going to put $10 billion into upgrading roads. And that's, you've probably seen the potholes around. I think we're hearing more and more damage from that.
Yes.
And we're going to see more after the rain events we've had. That's really important. But cost of living is really hurting everyone. Interest rates have gone up. And the one thing we can do with that is we're going to make sure that the train fares here in Victoria that are currently $9.20 or $4.60 for a full fare versus concession, we're going to bring those down to $2 and $1. And we're going to cap that for 4 years. So if you want to go into the city and back, whether it's for work, sport, a concert, a community event, a multicultural event, or Diwali coming up, it'll only cost you $2 to get in and back. That's a big saving for families.
That's another thing. But then we have already had a chat about this, that from where you are getting the funding. You have already mentioned that you have the policies where you want to invest. So I won't come back to that one. But when we are talking about Southeast area, especially in this area, not only in this area, in whole Victoria, I can say the crime rate is going up as well. So what policies you think, how can we control this crime? Because that is, I think, at the moment is the biggest issue for a whole community.
Yeah, one of the most important things we can do, the first thing locally, is we're going to build a police station in Clyde North. So we've committed to that. That's a really important thing. Probably one of the things most importantly across the whole state is we're going to introduce response times. When you call an ambulance, you know, not that it's happening at the moment, but you know there's supposed to be an ambulance there in X amount of time.
Yeah.
When you call for a fire truck, the same thing. But when you call for a police officer, there's no set time. So we'll introduce times that they have to react to. The reason, then the commissioner will have to ensure that they've got the police officers where they need them. So if they don't need tasking units or they've got other units that aren't needed, we want to make sure that those police officers are back out where they're needed. When you call 000 and you need a police officer, they'll arrive. By making sure we've got police out proactively, I assure you we'll reduce the crime here in Victoria.
So I think liberal policies are really good as compared to, I don't know whether it depends on person to person, but at the moment from what I'm hearing, you have a very good policies. But once again, whatever your opinion is, I can only say that please vote wisely. And if you have any questions for Brad, you can send those questions directly to us on apnafriendchannel@gmail.com, and we promise we will try our best to bring those answers back to you. So please don't forget to send your questions and listen, read the policies before voting. Your voting is very, very important, and it can make our future easy, our kids' future easy. So Brad, what last message would you like to give to the community?
Yeah, I'm going to say to people exactly what you said. Think wisely. When you're going to vote, it's so important. Don't ever think your vote doesn't count. Obviously, I'm biased. I want people to vote Liberal. And I actually say to people this time, I asked the question to many people, if you've watched what Daniel Andrews has done when he's gone into your life and affected everything you've done, or more recently, when he came out and said it's okay to discriminate against the Essendon chairperson when he was sacked, we can't have discrimination. We've got to be all about freedom of speech, all about the freedom of the individual. That's you. If you want a government that believes that you should be able to do those things, that you should have a government that gives confidence in you, you have to vote Liberal this election.
All the best wishes, Brad, from all of us, especially from your Berwick area and Clyde area. So we'll see the results just very close to the 26th of November. Once again, please vote wisely, and thank you so much for watching us.
वेडिंग प्लानर एक मुकम्मल इवेंट कंपनी जो आपको देंगी सभी सर्विसेज, फोटोग्राफी, वीडियोग्राफी, प्री वेडिंग शूट, receptions, birthday parties, corporate parties and decorations for wedding, birthdays and corporates. Also DJ, catering, face painting, balloon twisting and security services आपके event को peaceful बनाने के लिए. Your one-stop stop, अपना Wedding Planners.